Perhaps the most challenging aspect of making Rylai's Let It Go was making the boobs move right. See, boobs have a certain standard to it. You have to really focus on the physics, on things like gravity, clothing, climate, how movement reacts to the physics of the boobs, and it's really hard to manipulate that in 3D and create a very realistic simulation. I have hours of boob references and footage I used to cross-reference my CGI character to the real world, and really made sure I realistically simulate the way boobs move in a 3D environment. And I knew I was on the right track once I uploaded these footages into my Instagram account and have people comment approvingly over the way the boobs are done. But the only way you can know for sure you've really done your job is if you just upload your piece onto YouTube and see what your audiences have to say for that, which I'm proud to say they have approved. So I'd like to present you all the making of Rylai's boobs. No, we won't be doing that. Making boobs are actually really easy to do in 3D. It's just one flex modifier and one poly selection tool, and the computer does the rest when you animate. But what I will be talking about is how I did everything else. 3D, the project, the workshop, and what I've learned from this project. If you're looking for something in particular, I've time-coded everything below in a YouTube description box, so if you want to jump ahead and get to a specific topic, you can do that, or you can just watch this straight through. I've edited this YouTube video in a streamlined way so it's easy to follow if you do watch it straight through. Okay, so what I'm talking about is Rylai's Frozen, or Rylai's Let It Go, which is a personal project of mine. It's a character from Dota 2 doing the famous Let It Go sequence in Frozen. As it stands, the video is sitting above 200k views, which is a good result compared to other Dota 2 videos, but a poor result compared to other Let It Go related videos, such as the Let It Go Minecraft video and other assortment Let It Go related phenomenon. Now, although this is the best result I've gotten, I was hoping for a little more in the sense that this is quite the meme. But I think there's two reasons for this. I was a little late when it came to timing, and I think there are a few people who are interested in Dota 2 than the people who are actually interested in games like Minecraft, Frozen, and other dank memes. The actual idea of working on a project such as this came to me while I was working on Pudge Creek. While I was working on Pudge Creek, I was thinking of other mashups I could do if this Pudge Creek video became popular. One idea I had was using Windrunner as Katniss Evergreen in a Hunger Games mashup. The other was Rylai as Elsa in Frozen, because Let It Go was going viral in 2013 and it seemed to be the better choice. Pudge Creek took me 2 weeks to actually build. This one took me 3 to 6 months of solid work over a year duration. I knew I'd lose a lot of money while working on this, so the idea was to create a Crystal Maiden set with this video and launch them together at the same time. The idea is to direct traffic from the video to my workshop set so I could recover some costs. I was actually experimenting to see if this could actually be a possible business strategy and a way of earning a possible income with YouTube ads. Turns out I was very wrong about that. In terms of a monetary point of view, working on a YouTube movie and a set piece in this way is a very bad idea. And I wouldn't encourage anyone to do the same if you wanted to make money out of a project like this. I'll talk about more on the workshop at the end of the video. But if you're for the art and for the YouTube community, then this is a great way of earning internet points while making yourself broke. So let's talk about how I did the video. So I've used 3ds Max for this video and wait a minute, this all sounds familiar. Haven't I done this before? Yes, I've actually done it. A few years ago I made a movie called My Time Here. It had some problems in the story, but I learnt a whole bunch of 3D techniques when I made the movie, and when it was done I went ahead and made a video lecture series on how it was made called The Making of My Time Here. You can go to this site or this YouTube playlist to watch it all. It's very thorough and long and in-depth, but it will teach you everything you need to know. The techniques I used in Rylai's Frozen are the same techniques I used in my time here. And using those techniques, I really didn't have any problem making this movie. I didn't run into any issues or face challenges. It was a very smooth process. So if you want more technical, in-depth information to supplement this one, that would be a great place to start. So CG movie production is set in 3 stages. There's pre-production, there's production, and then there's post-production. So pre-production is where you actually design your movie. You write and you do storyboards and you try to form a team or plan the project and set milestones and gather assets. Now, because this movie I worked on is based on Frozen, there isn't much writing or storyboarding to be had. Only the ending was significantly different. And again, because Valve made most of the assets and distributed them freely, anyone can just use those and save a heap of time. Production is where you actually use the assets you create and create files used for video editing. This is where character animation comes in, lighting, cinematography, clothes, and the assets you've built in pre-production come together. This is the more time-consuming process where you're actually directing the computer to render files. Post-production is where you combine all the rendered files you've created and polish them. This includes color correction, particle effects, video editing, sound, audio, voices, and music. So the goal of this film was to get on the Frozen hype train and create a Let It Go sequence for Rylai for a big view count. To transition into some way I could get paid, I created a CM set that would feature this piece and asked people to vote or buy it. I'm sure most people who have watched Frozen notice that Rylai and Elsa are the same character. They both have sister rivalry, they were both banished from Kingdom to live in isolation in the north, and they both have magical ice powers. So they are the same character. But I didn't just want to rip Frozen and whack Maiden in there, I wanted to Dotify it. I wanted to Dotify Frozen until it looked as if Dota 2 and Frozen universe have merged into the one. So in the story of Frozen, the Let It Go sequence was done to signify Elsa's independence and that she just couldn't care anymore. She didn't care about a kingdom or her family, she was just letting it go and making it all about her and discovering her new powers. Well, I could bring like every element into that over Rylai. There's no reason to go away from that theme when Rylai faces the same challenges as Elsa did. No one gives a shit about Rylai as a support. They just want her aura and her wards. That's been my experience when I play Rylai. But at the end of the game, I usually get frustrated with my team, and I get a Blink Dagger and a Black King Bar, and then I just let it go all over those bitches. So basically, Rylai Let It Go is how I play Rylai. Be a ward bitch at the start of the game, and then become frustrated with my team, and then play as a terrible ice bitch at the end to save my team. That's the plot of the video, and what I wanted the set piece, Fury of the North, to reflect. It's basically how I play Rylai, and what Rylai would be if Frozen was set in Dota 2. Most of the assets were ripped from the game. You can unpack the game files from your Steam directory using this application. With it, you can extract the game meshes and the textures and other things like that. Now, I believe if you use Source Filmmaker, you can just streamline that process. But because I used 3ds Max, I had to export each file I needed to use, grab the mesh, grab the texture, and finally combine these all together in 3ds Max. There isn't any way of importing the whole game map into 3ds Max, so I had to fake it and create my own scenes using the assets I had taken from the game. After I was in a good place and had every asset and background I could use, I started to set up each of the characters I needed for each of my shots. So I wanted to start with Rylai, and because she was the starting point in all my scenes. You can download each of the Dota 2 heroes in the game from Valve's site. This will usually give you the mesh and the textures and a skeletal rig. I think I had to use the material editor in 3ds Max to put the normal map files in and other things that don't come over as well. There are usually bones set up in the files you download, and the mesh is skinned to those bones, and they already have facial morphs already set up in a modifier. Because I have a specific pipeline I like to use in 3ds Max when it comes to my project, which is the Character Animation Toolkit, I usually remove the bones and skin them and replace them with my own format. I also need to create a facial rig to set up the facial animations. I did this by creating 2D splines to mimic her face, then connecting each movable spline to her morphing modifier, making sure they stick where they needed to be with limits in 3ds Max. So when I move her eyes in the spline, the eyes move within the modifier stack. This is all done through wire parameters in 3ds Max. It's a time-consuming process to set it up, but you only need to do it once. Once you have her bones and facial rig set up, you can set up secondary physics to help sell your character. This includes the actual boob physics, the hair physics, and the cloth. The hair and boobs were done by the flex modifier, and poly selections you can use soft selection to ease off the animation, and then the computer handles everything else. The cloth was done with traditional cloth modifier. They were done by creating a separate meshes of the cloth, assigning the seam vertices to preserve so they stay where they are with the bones, and then hit simulate once the animation done. I've made a pretty in-depth video on cloth before, so check those out if you want to learn more about this process. The other characters were done the same way Rylai was done. Because none of them really needed a facial rig, I just needed a bone system and skinned them to the mesh. I favor using Character Animation Toolkit because this process can be done very quickly. The more unusual ones include the Broodmother and Doom because of their non-humanoid standard. But because Character Animation Toolkits is really easy to use, sticking to the principles usually gives you a good result. Again, you can watch these two videos if you want more information about boning and skinning. So, animation is one of those things that can't be faked. Either you're a good animator, or you know a good animator, or your characters will look like shit. I experimented with doing motion capture with the Kinetic, and you can see a video tutorial on how that's done, but I found the results to be too poor for the time invested, and I couldn't really use those results. I ended up doing the animation the traditional way, by using keyframes. To do the typical scene, I would first use the facial rig to make Rylai sing whatever line needed to be sung, and make sure she had the appropriate facial animations with it. With her face done, I would watch the original Let It Go to see what the character did, and then copy that animation. I would put the body through a rough series of keyframe layouts which would focus on timing and positioning, and then kept polishing away on those keyframes by adding more and changing how the keyframes would transition using easing until I was happy with the way it looks. Once I was happy with how the animation looks, I would simulate the clothing if they were in the shot. That includes the cape and the loincloth and the weapon. If there were any collisions or clipping, I would go back, adjust some of the values, and re-simulate. I followed the lighting from Frozen to match this scene. From what I could tell, it was the standard 3-point lighting setup. It had a strong fill light with a soft secondary light and a harsh rim light. This would change in the later battle scene to include red lights to match the dye's palette and the base structure. Whenever Rylai did a spell, there would be a brief omni flash to light the area. I saved these 3 key lights as a group and merged them into every scene I created, tweaking each setting depending on the distance and the mood. The most intense shot I've ever done in my life was the first battle scene with Rylai and the Dyer team. It was one long 30-second shot, and it took me a month to finish. It features 10 animated characters, the whole of Dyer's base, particle effects, and an animated camera on a rail. My computer couldn't handle rendering all this at once, so I had to do it in stages. First, I had to import all my models and get the camera movement down right. I then wanted to be happy with the timing, the angle, and the positions of the characters and the camera before moving on. Next was animating the characters to move with each other. Then was the lighting. Then was the particle effects. Lastly, it was rendered in passes so my computer could handle it. I wanted this long shot to go exactly how it went down, and I'm happy to say it was worth it in my end. So I hope you really enjoyed it. There are several particle effects used in this film. The snow was created by creating 2D splines in a box and assigning gravity and wind to it. The hand explosions and the ice spells had a small number of parent particles to come out of it, with heavy amount of child piles after it to create a trail. The stroke particles that wrap around the stairs was created by sticking particles along a snake mesh. This mesh was then animated with a box selection that would delete the polygons as it animates outside of its zone. The resulting effect looks as if there are snow snakes moving with Rylai. The stairs itself was animated in the same way. The actual stair model was very long, but the polygons would only appear and disappear if they were outside of the box selection. With a soft selection and a noise modifier to the stack, it gives the effects as if the stairs was materializing out of nothing. All of the explosions in the battle scene was done the same way the hand explosions were. Parent particles would spawn out, creating children particles whenever they moved a distance to create a trail. The Doom fire effects scene was done using fume effects. The cloth particle effects was done by having a mesh follow around a path around Rylai, and then having particles spawn from that path. The actual clothing shift was done with masking effects inside of After Effects. The eye glow was done by having a stream of particles emit from the eyes and become fainter until they disappear. I was going to include this with my set piece, but I can't do that until Source 2 comes out and becomes a thing. And the shrine destruction was done using a Mass Effect physics engine simulation. So usually 3D artists render things in passes. The characters are rendered in one pass, the background in another, shadows another, and particle effects as the last. This is because people can adjust each layer in After Effects and add things such as blur and color correction to each element. Some scenes used grayscale depth path, which can be used to create a depth of field effects in After Effects. I used to do motion blur inside a 3ds Max. That's done by rendering each frame 5 to 15 times within the rendering setters. But I found it easier to let After Effects handle that project with pixel blending. Instead of rendering passes in 3ds Max, you only have to do one and then let the motion blur process in After Effects handle the rest. Either way is costly, but I found it to be more efficient to let After Effects motion blur it at the end of the project and render that out, than rendering out 5 to 15 images for each time you change an animation setting in 3ds Max. So YouTube copyright violations is a big issue, and I didn't want this one to be flagged by it. YouTube does this automatically by matching your audio files of your video to other audio files on YouTube. So I knew I had to create an original sound piece for this video. I had found a Let It Go MIDI file on the internet, which I had bought for $5. It had every instrument piece already assigned to a specific instrumental track. Putting this into Cubase and assigning real instruments to those tracks was most of the work. I had to tweak and adjust tracks when some parts were not as strong and needed some work. If you want more information of music, you can check out an earlier video I've done here. Now, if it wasn't for the workshop, this project would have never been made. I knew this movie would cost me a lot of money to produce. Rent, food, power over a long period of time is costly. Money that I would probably not get back. But with the workshop, at least there's a chance of making something back. But as it stands now, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So it's really tough getting started in the workshop. It's really hard to do good character designs and get them under the budget and make them look fantastic. The workshop is oversaturated with artists at the moment who are the best at their field, and they are all creating marvelous and fantastic sets that some never even see the light of day. If you try to do a set, you will be competing against people who are already established and have years of professional 3D experience in the industry behind them, and already have made a name themselves in the Dota 2 community. and there's only so many sets that I can get in the game. There are even some small companies that have teams of people that create sets specifically for the Dota 2 Workshop. And that's not even getting into Valve, who oversee the whole thing, don't communicate with you, can remove your sets for whatever reason, and can just release an arcade set to push out every other competing set with that arcade set for a while. So I did research before I designed this View of the North set. Everything in the market currently for Crystal Maiden has a very distinctive dressy and princess feel to it. So I wanted mine to be different and stand out, and I wanted it to fit the lore of what this short film presented itself as. So we had to go a different direction. Artists always have to work with the base model, as we can't change that, so that's where I started. I liked this area here with the purple straps that makes the sharp angles here, so I wanted my set to follow this theme. Sharp angles usually represent danger or anger, and that's shown in the eyebrows, facial muscles, and other pointy things. So I used this theme and applied it consistently with my whole set. I wanted to do a set what Rylai would fashion if she had embraced the edgy or darker side to her and came back to the Southern Kingdoms with her powers stronger than ever before. So a lighter, more mobile version of herself, so she could zip around with a blink dagger and cast her freezing field. I thought the purple straps would work in this way, so I used that design element across her arms, the shoulder, and the weapons. I focused on this empty area of the dress and added detail here. I really like some of the original design of having a ring here to hold things up and having straps come off a weapon, so I borrowed those over and added to the design. I wanted her head to be completely reworked though. I'm aiming to have particles effect for the eyes, waiting on Source 2 for me to build that. Short hair and jewelry because she's a talented enchanter. I really like my set for CM. It matches my playstyle and I think it suits the character. But most people on the internet, on YouTube and on Reddit disagrees. Even after revisiting the set months after it's done, I still think it's pretty good. I really like it. It's a shame and unfortunate that most people dislike it though, and it's something I did not predict. Look, here's the thing about Rylai, alright? Me and Rylai are intimate. She's my go-to support. I pick her when just about most of my games, my pub carry team pick 4 cores and I'm left at the end picking Rylai as support. I go around, I do my job, I drop my walls, I max her era. But at the 15-20 minute mark, I change, okay? I become carry Rylai. I got my blink dagger, I've got my Black King bar, and if my farm's really good, I get my scepter. And then what do? I save the fucking team and let it go all over these bitches. And I let it go with impunity. So, listen, the thing about Rylai is she's not a good girl. I know the law is that she's happy and cheering and you'll never thaw my soul, but Rylai's pissed off. She's angry, she's traumatized, she's been abused. She's been banished from the Southern Kingdoms. She's been banished by her family. She's been disowned by her family. The kingdom doesn't want her in her home because of her ice powers. She damages the environment. So she was forced to the north in the middle of nowhere in a frozen wasteland with nothing but an old man to keep her company. So yeah, she's a little pissed off. All she did throughout her whole childhood, growing up into her teenage years, as a young adult now, she had nobody. Her sister lived in luxury in the fire temples and with her cool community, while Rylai was alone in the middle of nowhere in a frozen glacier. So yeah, she's a little mad, she's a little pissed off, and she's a bit furious that her kingdom could do that to her. So when it's time to let it go and become Elsa, she fucking lets it go, okay? And when it comes to decimating the Dire team or the Radiant team or whoever stands in the way, what do you want it to look like? Do you want to wear your formal dresses and your pretty blue dresses and your gowns and your gold crowns? No. No, you want to be mobile, okay? You want to look scary. You want to have pointy garments and your veins are so cold. Fumes come out of your eyes. And she cuts her hair short because she doesn't give a fuck, man. That hair goes in her face when she's doing the let it go thing. She needs to cut it short. And it's blue because she's ice fucking cold. That's Rylai. That's how I play fucking Rylai. And if you don't like my set, if you don't like short hair, oh, the hair's too short. This is not Rylai. Rylai has long hair. No. It's fucking Rylai, and she's mean as fuck. She doesn't give a shit if you think she needs long hair. She's cutting it short, she's zipping around the map with a big fire, and she's fucking letting it go, okay? So let it fucking go. But the audience disagrees, and Reddit disagrees, so that's that. Thanks for ruining my life, guys. That really sucks. So if you're planning to design a set for Crystal Maiden, don't give her short hair. Do not give her short hair. Don't even think about giving her short hair. Keep it long, because that's what people want, and it cost me a lot of money and time to figure that lesson out the hard way. So don't give her short hair. Do not give her short hair. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, also, after I finished the set, finished the movie, 1 week later, Crystal Maiden's Arcane set comes out and completely shits on everything I've done. Like, I spent a lot of time focusing in this area, and the Arcane set covers that area with her cape. So, it's like the most riskiest thing you could have, the stupidest thing I could have ever done, I think. But whatever, I had fun. So I think that's everything I really need to talk about. I still love Dota, I still play Dota, I still love support, and Crystal Maiden's my favorite hero, along with Puck. But I don't think I can ever make a movie like this again, because it takes too long and I lose too much money. And I have to start thinking about my future, like a mortgage and the house. I would love to continue making movies like this, but if I do, it will make me broke and homeless. My plan was to eventually have a team and create strong narrative stories like this that explores the lore and the characters of Dota 2. But the current business model of YouTube and Workshop, I just can't make it happen. It's just not going to happen. But I'm not giving up. I still think there's some interesting aspects of Rylai and Lena and that family and the sisterhood. And I really love the lore. So what I'm actually doing is I'm actually learning to use the Unreal Engine with the Oculus Rift. I think it's a really cool device, this, and I think the future is going to be in Oculus Rift, specifically in exploration and narrative games. So what I want to do is create an independent kind of really short Oculus Rift game which sets you as the character of Rylai, but not Rylai. I can't use Rylai because it's owned by Valve, but someone like Rylai. I want to borrow the themes of sisters, having one's ice and one's fire. They are having secrets, and the kingdom is trying to find out who's damaging everything, and they're trying to hide from their parents, and they kind of form a bond, and then they have a fight, and things go wrong. I think that would be really cool, because the games at the moment look pretty shit. Like, the only game I play at the moment is Dota 2, because it's really, really fun. I love Dota 2 so much, just like meeting new people, talking about strategy. Every game's different, but I really think there's something in the lore, and that can be worked on and paid on and built on using engaging stories and plots, which I'm hoping the Oculus Rift with the Unreal Engine will help along. Because I think that's going to be the future of movie and the game experience, and I want to be there when that happens, or even maybe pioneer. So if you're interested in this, you can follow me along on Twitter or Instagram. I'm at Evoke Labs, and I will update as I go once this project gets started. But I think that's everything I can talk about. Thanks for sticking with me so far. If you have any further questions, you can drop a comment on the YouTube comments and I'll answer them. If you want to help me out, please help by voting or buy the Free of the North set. Just click the thumbs up, man. Just click. I spent months on this shit. All you need to do is just click on the thumbs up. That's it. And if you want, leave a nice comment saying how much you love the set, even if you hate it, and how much you love the short hair. You think Rylai with short hair is wicked. I'd love that sort of thing, because it's a subjective thing. And the more people think short hair is cool, the better. Because short hair on Rylai is pretty cool, guys. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, and I hope to talk with you again.